you've ever experienced a Facebook ad or have ever talked about Facebook marketing, it's something that you might be able to leverage depending on who you are and what it is you want to do with it. One great application that I can see for it that I haven't really seen a lot of is for small businesses like, oh, I don't know, fursuit makers, artists, people who take commission. While it may not bring in the bank the first few times you try it, it's got some pretty neat tools to help you get ahead on Facebook. Now, admittedly, not every furry is on Facebook, and it may seem kind of dumb considering we are spread across a very wide variety of different places, but Facebook's marketing is pretty neat in that it's not all that expensive depending on what you want to do. It's pretty easy to set up, and it's pretty much a turnkey operation. Now, as some of you guys might know, I do work in the marketing sphere. I work for a tech company that actually specializes in Facebook marketing. I will not say who. But essentially, I took today to look over my contract really quick and basically assess what I can say and what I can't say. So for what I can say, I want to give you the bare bones of what you can do in Facebook and some great ideas, whether you're an artist, a fursuit maker, or otherwise. I'll give you some great examples of how to do these and, where to find stuff in Facebook to do it accurately and professionally. Now, the things I'm going to talk about you can easily find in any of Facebook's help sections, or if you're a marketer yourself, you'll know it's also available in Blueprint, which I believe is only an option for those of you who work in the marketing sector, either at an agency or a tech solution. But correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, let's go through some really easy ways to use Facebook marketing to help your business get a little bit of a boost, shall we say. Let's go. So the first thing you're going to want to do before you do anything else is A, get a Facebook for your business, but secondly, set up a payment method so that you can actually run ads through Facebook. Now, acceptable forms of payment in Facebook, I believe, are still credit cards and PayPal. They do accept PayPal. If you're a bigger marketer and you're part of an agency, then yeah, you can do insertion orders and all that fancy jazz. But speaking to smaller businesses, a credit card or a PayPal account is really all you're going to need. You'll essentially connect it to their servers. It'll all set up nice and cleanly, and then you're ready to start marketing. So the first thing you're going to notice when you have a Facebook account and you've enabled payment methods is there's going to be an option under certain posts to boost it. What does boosting mean? So boost is the rough terminology that Facebook uses for very, very low impact marketing. Basically, it's just a little bump to get that certain post to do a little better or worse. Well, really just better. It's not going to get any worse. So if you're looking for just a very easy way to promote something that either you've made or posted or you have up for sale, a boost is a perfectly fine way to go about it. Now, some of the options you're going to have for boosting is targeting fans of your page, interests, and fans of your page and their friends. When you first get started, the fans of your page might be a very small audience, so you might want to start with something a bit bigger, like, say, interests. This will give you a wider reach, or how many people will potentially see your post. And even though you might not hit that many people and it might be a little bit more expensive, it might help to grow your page more than, say, promoting your page, which is another option through Facebook marketing. Now, when you go to do this broader targeting, if you're a furry, understandably, probably the lowest hanging fruit there is furry interests. On Facebook, these are currently the only furry interests that I could find, and I do often target them when I'm promoting my videos on Facebook. Admittedly, not every video makes it to Facebook. Sometimes with the music I use, I try to be kind of careful because I can hit copyright, which is another thing. If you have video content and there's copyrighted music, maybe edit it with some royalty-free so you don't get hit with copyright. But otherwise, targeting interests is a really good way to hit a larger audience of people than just targeting your fans, especially if you only have a couple hundred fans. Now, when targeting, just be aware that there's a couple of different options that you can target in terms of age, geography, all that good stuff. And when you're running a boost, you are going to have a certain time period that you want it to run for. Now, one tactic I use on the Ragehound page is I really only spend a couple bucks because I'm cheap. But also because I know what I'm targeting really isn't going to cost me all that much, and my goal is just to get it in front of a few people. Now, if your goal is to sell something or to basically see a return on that investment, it gets a little tricky. If you have your own website where people can buy things, what you can do is take something called a pixel, which can be placed on your website, and it'll talk to Facebook and essentially tell you that a purchase has been made. But as we all know, most furries don't necessarily have their own page. A lot of people like to buy things off of Dealer's Den and FurBuy. So that option really isn't available. However, what is available is a myriad of choices that you can use to promote your post. So if the goal is to get, say, an auction item in front of a lot of people so they see it and maybe get interested, you can promote it in a number of different ways. You can promote it through brand awareness, which basically uses Facebook algorithms to try and identify people for which it'll be more relevant. Or you can do post engagement, where it'll optimize people liking, commenting, and sharing. Neither one is wrong or right. It's kind of your choice on that one, but I do find that because the brand awareness objective tends to run through more algorithmic mumbo-jumbo, it can be a little pricier. But when you're just starting out and you're trying to get awareness for your brand, it's not the worst one to pick. You can also optimize to link clicks and getting people to go to the actual listing of that item if you post it as a link, or if you post it as a link. Now, if you're going to post pictures with a link in the actual body of the post engagement might be the best go here, and brand awareness might also be a good choice here. It just depends on what you're trying to do. Now, if you do have videos like I do, and you're a YouTuber that's kind of transitioning onto Facebook, you can also use video views, which will optimize to people who are watching the video, and I believe you can still optimize for people watching up to 3 seconds. At any rate, using boosts is a great way to get some of your posts in front of some people who might have missed it. Admittedly, anything in the Facebook feed is subject to the Facebook feed. Now, admittedly, Facebook themselves have admitted that, on average, something posted without any boost behind it is only really going to reach about 16% of the followers that are actually paying attention to that page. Yeah, even furries. So if you're posting something about an auction or, something for sale or your new art or something that you think your fans would find really interesting, there's a lot of factors that come in here. Either your fans may not be paying attention to Facebook at that particular time, or based on how they've interacted with other pages, it might get reordered in their newsfeed. Additionally, you have to also realize that there's a lot of people on Facebook putting money behind their stuff. So someone who is putting money to get something in front of someone might bump you down in the feed a little bit, and that's totally okay. Facebook has to pay their bills, and honestly, that's how I pay mine. So there's no real big deal there. The nice thing is, with Facebook, you can very specifically target stuff that you think will be of interest to your fans. So if you're posting, say, a fursuit, you can target people who might be interested in that and only make sure that those people see it. It's not exactly perfect all the time. Sometimes your fursuit winds up in front of someone's mom, but that's pretty rare. But in terms of why you should boost your posts, if you have a post that you really want your fans to see, consider boosting it, because they may not see it otherwise. Now, another nifty trick that Facebook has up their sleeve is you can also target a little more advanced. So what do I mean by that? So you can also target people who are fans of your page, or if you go into the manage ads section once you've set up the payment and done all the fancy stuff, I'll put some screenshots up here, you can also create specific audiences based on things that have happened on your page or people who've gone to your website. If you do have your own website, I highly recommend that you also target people who visit your website. You can do that with a custom audience, or an audience built off of custom variables that basically build out that audience to specifically address that need. Some common options are targeting the top 25% of people that go to your page or who have spent a certain amount of time. Another thing you can do is target with people who've engaged with your page. You can do a blind target where you basically target anyone who's engaged with your page, or you can go a little bit further. You can target people who've engaged with certain things. You can target people who have watched your videos, or any number of different options. Another thing that Facebook has, which could be considered creepy, but for you is pretty nice, is also the lookalike feature. Now, the lookalike feature is pretty darn cool. What you can do is take any of the audiences I previously mentioned, and Facebook can generate a 1% rough match of people who are like those other people. Basically, if I like furries and I like fursuits, and I also like your page, there's a good chance there's another of me out there. So what Facebook does is they go into their database and they find someone who's like that person, and they'll get placed into that audience. So even if you have been serving the same boost post to the same people, and maybe they're not as excited as they used to be, consider a lookalike audience. Find some new people and prospect some new customers. It's a pretty nifty trick for trying to get some new people to your page too. Now, cost. How much does doing all this cost? Well, that's entirely up to you. Whether you choose to spend $1 for one day of a simple boost, maybe $2 for something a little more important, or using one of the other objectives which may require that you spend anywhere from $5 to $10, it's kind of entirely up to you. The nice thing is Facebook doesn't really force you to do it. If you think something needs a boost, you can give it a boost. If you think something doesn't really need a boost, they don't make you do it. It's kind of all up to you, and a pay-as-you-go or play-as-you-go kind of situation. It's pretty nice. Now, bidding. If you're using the basic boost feature, you're not going to have a lot of choice in how you're bidding against targets. What do I mean by that? Alright, so I could bore you to death with how the Facebook market works, but instead I'm just going to link a nice little graphic in the description that explains all of the fancy pants marketing terms. But on a very basic level, when you're boosting a post, what you're essentially doing is you're bidding against a certain audience, and there's a lot of factors that go into it. If your ad is really relevant to the people who are looking at it, and it's a nice ad, and in this sense your post is being treated as an ad, Facebook is going to look at it the way they look at any other ad. There's a couple things to keep in mind with this. Facebook a long time ago got rid of the 20% text rule that basically says an ad cannot run if there's 20% text, but not entirely. So if your post has a lot of text on it, like a lot of text, you might still not be able to run it. Facebook might just flat out say no. If your post has a little bit of text on it, but it's still just a squidge over 20%, they're not going to treat it as fairly as they would a post that has less text. Additionally, if your post has no text at all, or has a very classily placed logo in one corner, it'll be fine. It probably won't get impeded. And if you have under 20% text on that particular image or thumbnail of the video that you're using, Facebook's usually fine with it. They'll be cool with it, and you can run the ad just fine. Now, how does this all factor in? So, put simply, when you put that ad into market, Facebook is looking at the relevance score, which is based on how many people have actually seen the ad and feel it's relevant to them, and then how many people have selected the "this ad isn't relevant to me" option. Yeah, that thing actually serves a purpose, didn't you know? If a whole bunch of people you're targeting indicate that it's not relevant to them, it could actually hurt your ad's performance. So target carefully and make sure it actually makes sense. While it would be great to target absolutely everybody in the state of Pennsylvania, don't. Just don't, if you're a furry. Target people who like, I don't know, furry fandom and are between the ages that you're willing to have look at it and maybe are in the state of Pennsylvania. Make it a little more specific. That helps everybody out here, and it just keeps your ads from costing you a lot of money. Now, with bidding, there's a couple of different options. Now, depending on what type of objective you're using, or basically what Facebook defines as the thing you're trying to accomplish, you have some options. You can bid on the action or the action you want taken based on the objective you set, and that will only charge you or basically cost you money once someone has taken that action. It's great if you just want to pay for people specifically liking, commenting, and sharing, or clicking on your link or viewing your video, but the risk there is the impressions, or the cost of the impressions, can be a little higher, meaning it might be a little trickier to get in front of people and it might cost you a little bit more. The other option is bidding on impressions, or what's known as OCPM. What that essentially does is it charges you for every eyeball that has seen the ad, but on average, the cost is going to be lower because you're trying to make sure the number, or basically the number of people who see it are seeing it at the lowest price to you. Beyond this, there are even more features. I know it's a lot. Stay with me. You can do this manually or you can do it automatically. Depending on what you're trying to do, there's advantages to both. Automatically uses Facebook's algorithm to determine what your bid should be to win out an auction and get your ad in front of a set of eyeballs. Seems pretty cool, right? Yeah, it's actually pretty effective. But if you find that you don't want to pay any more than a certain amount for something, which really only comes into play if you're a marketer or a major company who has to hit certain goals throughout the year, you can also go manual, where Facebook will essentially suggest a bid that you probably should use to win an auction, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win it, and this number may change, so you have to keep an eye on it. For a person basically doing this for the first time, I really suggest leaving it on automatic. Facebook has a pretty robust algorithm, and you don't need to be staring at an ad all day. That's not a very good use of your time. Now, I guess a couple of other things that come along with all of these different features is the ability to turn ads on and off, create ads in the actual ads manager thing that you are given as part of having a payment plan set up, and the ability to kind of personalize things as much as you want. When you're building an ad, there'll be certain fields that have certain limitations, like how much text you can put somewhere. Strong language is generally a really bad idea. If you try to put strong language in any part of a post that you want to boost or in an ad, Facebook is pretty much going to say no. Obviously, nudity isn't really that great either, but just understand that when you're going to put this ad in market, how it looks will also affect how effectively the bids work. If your ad has a bunch of text on it, even though you might be winning out in terms of how much you're bidding, and normally that would get it right in front of a set of eyeballs, if Facebook has determined that your ad isn't really relevant to the target you're using, other ads might win out and your targeting audience won't really see it as much, and it'll cost you a lot more money. So just bear in mind that that has a very, very strong effect when you go to bid in auction. Now, if you've made it this far in the video, good job, because admittedly this can be a little bit boring. But how can you use this? I mentioned before that boosting a post for, say, a fursuit you're trying to sell could be a great option, or, using it to showcase your art and hopefully get interest for commissions and all that fancy jazz. But how can you practically use it? So I have a few scenarios here, and some of them tie into the other business tips that I gave in prior videos, so be sure to check those out if any of these sound a little unfamiliar or you're confused. But one really interesting way that I actually thought of recently is commissions, and this ties into the Google Forms that I talked about. So while it's not the most efficient thing to drive people off-site to click on a link, it's not a bad idea for commissions, and hear me out here. So if you want people to sign up for commissions and you've posted it on Twitter, and you've posted it in Telegram groups, and you've posted it in Fur Affinity and elsewhere, consider also giving it a little post in Facebook as well. Posting what, Ray John? Posting what? So in a prior video, I talked about using Google Forms to collect information on potential customers that may want to commission you which will essentially feed into an Excel spreadsheet so that you can go through and pick whoever you want for commissions and organize all that stuff before it all goes to Trello. It's easier than email, and it's a heck of a lot better than trying to swim through 40 different Telegram messages that are probably going through your feed really, really quick, and it's also a heck load better than trying to manage it through Instagram's like direct message feature. Trust me, it works a lot better than that. So one thing you can do is make a post with a link to your commission sheet on Facebook and then give it a teeny tiny boost. I would recommend $1 for a day and just see what happens. Anyone can spare $1. Doesn't cost that much at all. Now, what you can do here is basically target people who would potentially have an interest in getting a fursuit from you. So what you could do is you could target people who've gone to your website. You could also target people who've engaged with your page before. You could target fans of your page, if you have a lot, but if you don't, you can use targeting to identify people who have an interest in furries and fursuits and go with that and get it in front of a couple more people who may not have even known that your brand existed. Or in this case, your small business of fursuit making. It's just a nifty little trick that maybe gets a few more eyeballs when you go to take commissions, and it's not the worst idea in the world. Try it. Now, another thing you can do is boosting an actual item that you have for sale, or if you don't want to boost it, but actually create a dedicated little campaign for it, say that your fursuit costs you, let's say like $600 to make. Let's just say that. I don't make fursuits. I don't know what I'm talking about. And you want to sell it for, let's say, $3,000, because again, I know nothing about fursuit making. So what you might want to do is set up a little budget for how much you're willing to spend to get it in front of people before you're kind of breaking even. So while it's not guaranteed that this will help you get your fursuit sold, it'll definitely get more attention on it and help it not get lost in the mess of Dealer's Den or wherever it is you're selling it. Now, if you have an Etsy or a Shopify account, this actually can be made a bit easier. So if you have an Etsy account, you can actually tie that to your Facebook account, I believe, and sell it directly from Facebook. But I'll Google that to make sure. And with Shopify, you can actually make a Shopify store on your page and have people buy it directly off of Facebook. Or you can basically link out to that Shopify page that has all of your stuff on it. Maybe it's your main website and people can buy stuff directly off of it. And I know that Shopify has a pretty good system for actually implementing Facebook pixels. You just kind of plug and play, and then you can track how many sales have come from this. If you're doing a fursuit, maybe you're not going to see a whole lot of return there, but if you're like a lemon brat and you do little items that can also be bought, or say a paw star that has a bunch of different items that you can buy, this could be a great option to just get some foot traffic to your website, and if people buy stuff, you'll know. But of course, if you don't have any of that and you're just doing Dealer's Den, like most people, you're not going to concretely know that it was this Facebook ad that got people there. But what I would suggest for this is link out to that listing. If you want, you can do a photo with the link to it in the actual body of the post and do brand awareness or post engagement and just get some eyeballs on it so it gets a little bit more attention. Or you can do a link and link out to it that way. Or you can do a carousel, which is a really cool little ad unit where you get multiple little pictures that people can kind of swipe through, and you can have all of them linked to the same thing or link to different things. Say you have multiple fursuits that you have for sale on Dealer's Den. This is a great way to get people to look at multiple things you're trying to sell. Again, no real concrete proof that it'll actually drive a sale, but it doesn't hurt to get a little bit more publicity when you're trying to sell a suit. So if you are trying to sell this suit for about $3,000 and it cost you about $600 to make, see what your break-even point is or how much you're willing to invest on that is, and do up a little budget. And something you can also do is figure out how long that item is available, schedule an actual little campaign with maybe 2 targets or 3 targets in it, and run it on a lifetime budget, which is a type of budget that basically flights out however much money you want over time and make sure that it doesn't spend too much money. Or you can do a daily budget, but if you do a daily budget, just be careful because it's not as exact. And if you've basically assigned under $100 for this little boost of yours, Facebook won't necessarily let you set a cap on it or a campaign limit. And if you forget to send an end date and you let it run for a few days, it's gonna keep spending. So I would suggest lifetime budgets if you're doing something for less than $100. But if you want to make sure it gets through a certain amount of money a day and then you can see some performance there, feel free to do daily budgets. But I would recommend it only if you're running something more than $100, because it's not particularly fun to wake up on Tuesday, realize you forget to set the end date on maybe the prior Monday when you made this thing, and it spent like $400 or $4,000. I have not had that incident, but I've heard it's terrible. But yeah, those are just a couple of ideas for how you can use Facebook marketing, and I hope they're helpful. Now, admittedly, this is some very high-level stuff talked about very briefly, so I'm sure some of you are going to have questions. If you're not really sure what anything I said meant, that's totally fine and completely normal. I have been doing marketing for about 5 years, so it's understandable that I may have oversimplified some things so it's a little easier for you to get, and it still might be really complicated to understand, and that is fine. If you have any questions about anything I discussed in this video, please feel free to email me. I am more than happy to consult with you and, give you a few ideas. Now, what I can't do is I cannot run this stuff for you, and I cannot get hired by you as a social person. Why? Because that's in violation of my contract, so I can't do that. But what I can do is show you where some stuff is, show you how it works, and show you the very, very bare bones of how to do this kind of thing. I can't tell you any trade secrets, and I can't tell you people I've worked with before because that is classified. But if you want to try to use this for your own business, maybe sell a few suits, get a few commissions, sell a few art pieces, sell a few badges, anything like that, feel free to shoot me an email. I am more than happy to give you a starting point and some ideas. And hope this was really helpful, and have a great day.